Hi, this is Colonel Sumat Khare. I'm a coach, an NLP practitioner, an emotional intelligence trainer, a specialist in behavioral training, and a student of neuroscience. Welcome to my channel, The Fascination. All things fascinating about knowledge, learning, art, and music, and the dots that connect all these things together. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. In my previous video, we had gained a very good understanding and awareness of the two pathways of anxiety, namely the cortex pathway or the pathway taken through our thinking brain, and the amygdala pathway, which is the pathway that's taken through the emotional brain. Another very interesting thing which we got to know about was that our neural circuits can be rewired thanks to the property of neurons called neuroplasticity. The link to this video is available for you to access and is placed in the description. In today's video, we will develop a better understanding of the basis of anxiety. That is to say, where does it begin? And in that context, I am reminded of something that I just read recently, and it goes something like this. Looking in the cortex for amygdala-based anxiety is like looking in your refrigerator to understand why your car won't start. You ain't looking in the right place. So let's dive straight into the amygdala first. As you're aware, the amygdala is at the heart of the anxiety response. However, research has shown that the amygdala's protective tendencies, you recall, it's meant to protect us, right? But these protective tendencies sometimes are misguided. Its assumptions that you need to be protected because you're in danger may also sometimes be incorrect. If that be so, then how does the amygdala decide what is dangerous? So let's take a look. There are three broad areas where amygdala-based anxiety begins. As you can see, the first one is negative experiences. The second one is emotional memories, and the third one is genetics. So let's examine the first one, and that is negative experiences. Now, many objects or situations aren't naturally feared by the amygdala. Instead, the amygdala learns to fear them as a result of life experiences. For example, a child doesn't naturally fear a flame. However, after he suffers burns from a lit matchstick, the child's amygdala learns to fear the sight of flames. In addition, the amygdala quickly adds various flaming objects to its list of dangerous things to avoid. So the child may also fear lighters, sparklers, candles, and even campfires. So that brings us to the second area, and that is of emotional memories, and we are talking about negative memories here. You'd recall from my previous video that the amygdala associates anxiety with experience to create emotional memories, and you may not necessarily have an awareness of these emotions. Let's take the example of this couple who's out for a drive and the lady is driving. Unfortunately, their car meets with an accident and the lady suffers severe injuries. Now, what's happening here? The man's amygdala has associated the experience of the accident with anxiety to create an emotional memory. So to this day, when he rides in the passenger seat of his car, he experiences anxiety. He doesn't experience a memory of the accident every time he experiences this amygdala-based anxiety. However, anytime he approaches the passenger seat, he has a strong feeling that he must avoid the situation. Now, let's examine the third area, and that is genetics. I'm sure the word genetics pops up a question in our heads. Hey, could one have inherited a sensitive amygdala? And the answer is yes. Genetics can definitely influence the amygdala and therefore your typical emotional reactions. For example, children who have a smaller left amygdala tend to have more anxiety difficulties than other children. The good news is, every amygdala is capable of learning and changing. And in later videos, you learn how to train your amygdala
to respond differently.
So, having seen how the amygdala decides what is dangerous, now let's take a look at the cortex and see how the cortex figures out what is dangerous. I'm sure you've often heard the terms left brain and right brain in different contexts. In the context of anxiety, uh, the left brain and the right brain are related to thinking and imagery, and these two are the ones which play a role in deciding what is dangerous. So let's take a detailed look.
Now, the left brain can induce thought based anxiety, which leads to worry, rumination, anxious apprehension. So, if you have a tendency to worry about what will happen and search repetitively for solutions, or you have a tendency to ruminate, that is, to bring up matters that have otherwise been put away and you bring them up again, or focus intensely on a situation, or you feel the need to discuss a situation repeatedly, then the left brain is causing this kind of anxiety. On the other hand, the right brain induces anxiety based on imagery. That is to say, visual images, imagination, daydreams, intuition. So, if you have a tendency to imagine frightening scenarios or rely on intuitive interpretations of people's thoughts that may not be accurate, you can trigger off your amygdala to respond as if you're in a dangerous situation when no threat exists. Now, let's examine the cortex's interpretations of sensory information that may lead to anxiety. If your cortex interprets a perfectly safe situation as threatening, you'll feel anxiety. Consider a person who's walking his dog in his neighborhood. He sees a fire truck heading in the direction of his house, with lights on and sirens blaring, and interprets this to mean that his house is on fire. As a result, he starts to feel tremendous anxiety. The cause of his anxiety is his cortex's interpretation of the meaning of the fire truck, not the fire truck itself. His left hemisphere gets to work considering the ways a fire could have started, thinking, I may have left the stove on, or the wiring is so old, or maybe a short circuit started a fire. Meanwhile, his right hemisphere is creating images of his kitchen engulfed in flames. His amygdala is likely to react to these kinds of thoughts and images, and in response, the person may rush home in a panic, even though there is no actual threat to his home. It's evidently clear his interpretation is the source of his anxiety. That brings us to anticipation. Anticipation, which refers to expectations about what will occur, is based on the cortex's ability to begin preparing for a future event by considering or visualizing it. We can anticipate in positive ways and feel excited and eager. We can also anticipate in negative ways, expecting and imagining negative or even dangerous events. The anticipation of negative situations creates threatening thoughts and images that can significantly increase anxiety. In fact, the experience of anticipation is often more distressing than the anticipated event itself. But the good news is that cortex created thoughts and images can be changed. It's challenging, but they can be changed, and we'll show you how in our upcoming videos.
So, in this video, we've developed an understanding and a much better awareness of where does anxiety begin in these two parts, namely the amygdala and the cortex. And in the upcoming video, coming up a little shortly, we'll see what is the impact that the amygdala and the cortex have as far as anxiety, fear, panic, stress and worry are concerned. Until then, it's goodbye from me, Colonel Sumant Khare.